I picked up the powerful odor of shock and disgust from two older gentlemen in dark suits at a small table a few feet away from us. They must have overheard the topic of our discussion. Glancing their way, I noticed the matching look of contempt for us on their faces.
"Whoops,"
Gail said, and I looked back at her to notice she had picked up on that too.
"I suppose we should keep it down?"
She turned her head back toward me, and when our eyes met, I could tell she was on the brink of bursting into laughter. I had to suppress my own outburst. I suddenly felt like we were a couple of friends being silly in church and trying not to laugh. That made me want to laugh that much louder. What was it about this woman who brought out such intense emotions? "Maybe," I said, biting my top lip to keep the laughter inside, "maybe talking about such macabre details in a swanky place like this isn't the best idea." Gail nodded, shuffled over on the love seat, and patted the spot next to me.
"Slide on in here so we can discuss this without upsetting the high-end theater crowd. I don't bite."
I moved from my chair to sit beside her. Well, I can't promise I won't. I might have actually made a low growling sound from my throat when I said that. Based on the increased pulse and the pheromone scent she was giving off, she definitely heard that. She let out a playful purring sound in response.
If this wasn't a strictly professional relationship, we could just take this conversation upstairs to your room, and then we could be as loud as we wanted."
I couldn't believe she was being so forward. Her quickened heartbeat was clearly obvious to me, but based on my animal instincts and senses, there was no doubt that she was interested. But she'd shared this was to be a celibate year. I needed to respect that. Heck, as much as I desired her, I would gladly sit close to her and bask in that look she gave me that curled my toes. I could die a happy man with that face smiling at me the way she did. Call it my Canadian upbringing, or call it my fear of overstepping my bounds, but I always let the woman make the first move. Some alpha male I turned out to be. If only I was as alpha in human form as I was when I turned wolf. Yeah, I sighed. Too bad this is strictly professional. Of course, we could always stay here and talk about something else.
"Like what?"
Bees. I hear they're all the buzz lately. She groaned and rolled her eyes. Of course, it didn't matter what she did with her eyes. I was hooked like a fish. When she rolled her eyes, my stomach did an outright flip-flop. And the way her cute little nose wrinkled whenever I shared a horrible pun, it drove me insane.
"Good idea, changing the subject. It would allow us to just be friends."
We both laughed aloud at that, perhaps a little too loudly. The grumpy couple at the other table turned abruptly, scowling, and made loud tisk noises in our direction. Then they grabbed their drinks and moved to a table, further away from us. "Whoa," I said. "Who pissed in their prune juice?"
They look like they were born to be offended.
Should I go apologize to them?
"Oh, brother, you can take the boy out of Canada, but you can't take the Canada out of the boy. Nah, leave Stadler and Waldorf to stew in their own misery. I'm glad they buzzed off."
I let out another burst of laughter when she used the names of the two cantankerous old men who consistently jeered at and heckled the performances of the Muppet Show from their balcony seats. "You really need to behive yourself," I said.
"Wasp on earth are you talking about? I'm sitting here minding my own beeswax."
We were laughing uncontrollably at the stupidest of jokes in a string of puns that had gone too far a long time ago. But the release of the tension felt incredible. If we hadn't been laughing, I think my head might have exploded. "Okay," I finally said out of breath. "Enough with the bee talk. I think we've combed through all the sweetest puns by this point." She didn't laugh at all. I didn't even get an eye roll.
"No more bee talk,"
she agreed. Then a mischievous grin came over her face.
"Why don't we talk about the birds and the bees?"
"Mrs. Robinson, you're trying to seduce me." I paused, and the nervousness I was feeling would have made Dustin Hoffman's portrayal of Benjamin in that classic film look full of confidence. "Aren't you?" Gail grinned at that reference.
"Cuckoo-ca-choo. I may have been trying to do just that, actually."
Her phone vibrated on the table beside her martini. She looked at it, then looked at me. "That's Isabeau, isn't it?" I asked.
"Yes, she's checking in to make sure I sleep alone tonight."
"She's a good friend. She's looking out for you."
"Yes, she is.
She picked up her phone without looking at it and stood up, slipping it into the back pocket of her jeans.
That text was perfect timing. We should call it a night. Because if I don't leave now, I swear I will break my vow of chastity all over you, like an egg on its way to an omelet. And then I'd have to answer to Isabeau.
And I'd have to worry about her coming after my balls with a rusty spoon, I joked, mimicking the defensive gesture of covering my crotch with my hands. I stood up. We faced one another. I was reminded of standing so close to her earlier this afternoon and how intense it had felt. Not to mention how hard it had been to pull myself away. I really enjoy our time together, Gail.
Me too.
Have a good night, I said, leaning in to give her a hug. She moved into my arms for a warm embrace. I swear I felt intense tingling at every point of contact between us. There were hundreds of nerve endings across my body, tearing around and screaming, "Good vibrations!" The hug lasted a full beat, then another. I wasn't willing to let her go just yet, and I squeezed a little harder. Breathing in the combination of the sandalwood and vanilla scent of her hair this close hypnotized me. Feeling her against me was even better than I had imagined. And I had imagined it a hell of a lot in the past several days. She didn't let go either. Her own arms tightened a bit more. Another beat passed. This is nice.
It is.
See? A nice hug. Chastity intact. It's all good.
I could stay like this all night.
Me too. It's perfect.
Yeah, except there's this one problem.
What's that?
Are you sure you're Canadian?
Why?
Because I didn't think Canadians carried guns.
What? I started to pull back from her, confused. She let out a giggle and reached down with one hand on the back of my ass and pulled me in tight against her, so my hardness pressed against her thigh. Oh, I said. Yeah, that I am always happy to see you. Ecstatic, even.
Oh, don't worry. I can tell. But you know what would make me happy? Perhaps even ecstatic?
Tell me. I whispered into her ear a little more forcefully than I had intended. She pulled her head back and looked up in my eyes, her breath hot on the top of my throat.
If I could stop wondering what it would feel like to kiss you.
You've been listening to a sample from Chapter 9 of Lover's Moon, a paranormal romantic comedy by Mark Leslie and Julie Strauss. You can check it out at loversmoon.ca.